A warm welcome to you all, and thank you for making time to join us today on Dinner Guide. My name is Chef Andy, your regular host, and today we are going to be working on something somewhat different from the ordinary. I'm going to be showing you some 2 ways around making a slaw, and I'm also going to be showing you how to make some sesame chicken. Now, before we begin, I will begin by introducing the ingredients just to give you an idea of what to expect for this show. Now, from the very front, you've got a teaspoon of some smoked paprika powder, a whole egg that's been cracked open, and a teaspoon of some ginger powder. You're also going to require 1 whole lemon and about a 1/4 cup of sesame seeds. You'll require 80 grams of a chicken breast and some romaine lettuce. You'll also require some Dijon mustard, some oil to cook with, some salt to season with, 1 piece of spring onion and 1 piece of carrot. You'll also require some oil to fry your chicken in, and last but not least, some black peppercorns to crush and season with. Now, before we begin, we'll give you this chance to freshen up and unwind, and we'll catch you after a very short break. See you in a little while. Welcome back, viewers. If you're just tuning in, you basically have not missed much. We're right about ready to begin this simple dish. And now, to begin with, we're going to start by crumbing our chicken, and we're going to be doing the crumbing in a little bit of a different technique today. Now, for this first process, you will require your ginger powder, your sesame seeds, your paprika powder, and of course some of the egg. You'll also require your salt, which you'll be seasoning with, and some black peppercorns. So I'm going to begin by combining the spices, beginning by crushing some black peppercorns into a small bowl. Proceed to also add a pinch of salt. I'm also going to add in my sesame seeds, my ginger powder, my paprika powder, and all you're going to do now is just by knocking that on the side of the palm of your hand, you should be able to get those ingredients to combine very, very quickly. You can also use your fingertips and rub the mixture through. You can also proceed to mix that very, very quickly with your fingertips. And of course, using this method will be a little more effective, especially in coating your sesame seeds with all that beautiful ingredients that you've thrown in there. And also, this will also aid in breaking up any particular lumps from your paprika powder or your ginger powder. And once that is done, you can proceed to set that aside very, very briefly. I'm just going to wipe my hands. All right, now next up, we're also going to be working on our chicken. So a very, very simple technique I like to use before proceeding to coat. Make some very, very small incisions on your chicken. And what this does is going to actually aid in allowing the flavor to permeate a little faster. And it will also aid in cooking your chicken quite quickly. So this should be marks that are very, very shallow to the surface. Be sure not to cut right through the breast because it will actually begin to fall apart. And once that is done, into a separate bowl, proceed to add your egg. And by using a whisk, proceed to whip that for about 10 seconds. At this point, you can add a small dollop of oil. And what this does is it actually allows for the egg to coat the chicken quite well. And of course, it will also infuse that little bit of flavor from the olive oil. And once that is done, very, very simply proceed to grab your chicken breast and proceed to work it through the egg mixture, tossing as many times as you possibly can. Of course, getting a nice, beautiful coating all around. Once that is done, proceed to grab another bowl. To this, you're going to add your sesame seed, paprika, and ginger powder mixture with, of course, some salt and pepper to season. And all we're going to do at this stage is move our chicken into the separate bowl. Allow your chicken to sit right on top of the mixture. And all you're going to do is toss that a few times. It will actually give you quite a sensation, especially from the heat of the paprika powder. And once that is done, I'm going to return that to the egg mixture. Just toss it in there a few more times. Remember, 2 good tosses will always ensure that you get a nice even coating, and it also aids in really grabbing and allowing for your sesame seeds to hold on to your chicken breast. And you can return that to the bowl with the sesame seeds. And once more, just proceed to toss that around. And you will actually begin to notice that your chicken breast will start to really get that nice, beautiful coating of sesame seeds, which is what we're looking for. Right now, once that is done, we're just going to pat that down with our pair of tongs, or you can also use the back end of a spoon. You can also proceed to work your breast, of course, rubbing along the sides of your bowl. And be sure to reconstitute the sesame seeds once you're done. Remember, those may actually begin to fall off immediately, so be sure to always take just a bit of time. You can also use your hands to do so. Just proceed to grab that little bit of sesame seeds remaining at the bottom, lay them right over the top of your chicken and just pat it down. And this will actually aid in making sure that they stick to the chicken to the best of their ability. And once that is done, proceed to discard everything else. And of course, rinse your hands very briefly. Right, now while that continues to marinate on the side, I'm also going to turn on my burner very briefly. And to that, I will add some oil to the pot. This is basically where we are going to be frying our chicken breast. So you should reserve about 1.5 cups to 2 cups of some vegetable oil or some canola oil if you're looking for a more healthy alternative. And we're just going to allow that to come to the heat. And while we do so, I'm also going to direct your attention to the other ingredients. So we're going to very simply proceed to peel our carrot. Be sure to also trim off the edges just to make sure that you don't have any sand particles or foreign bodies falling from the edges. And you can proceed to discard the trimmings from your carrot, or you could actually also throw that into a pot with some trimmings from other vegetables, and you can also be able to make some vegetable stock. But as we proceed, very importantly, the we're going to begin our slaw by very simply grating our carrot. I'm just going to grate that into some nice big sizes in a bowl. Right, once that is done, we're also going to be incorporating a few more ingredients to that. So I'm just going to grab a spoon, and with that I'm going to spoon in just 1 level teaspoon of some mustard powder. Drizzle over about a tablespoon of some olive oil. Of course, very importantly, crush in some black peppercorns. Season as well with some salt. And all you're going to do at this stage is proceed to mix everything together in your bowl. You can also add a little pinch of sugar at this stage. It will actually give a nice beautiful crunch to your salad. Right, once your carrots are mixed, we are going to allow that to sit on the side for just a few minutes as we proceed to finish off the rest of the cooking process for the chicken. Now at this stage, you can proceed to grab a pair of tongs. Your oil should be almost hot enough to start to fry, but I'm going to drop in just the sesame seeds in there. If they quickly just raise to the surface and float and begin to bubble, that should be your checkpoint to go in with your chicken. So once more, a bit of extra patting of the breast will of course allow for the sesame seeds to hold on. Proceed to do the same on both sides, and very simply proceed to add your chicken breast into your hot oil, being very gentle at this stage, because it will actually help to really hold the consistency of the chicken and as well the consistency of the sesame seeds. And all I'm going to do now is tilt my pan back and forth. If of course you do have a bigger pot with both handles, you can of course just in a very slow rocking motion proceed to rock your pot left and right. And what happens is this particular motion will of course channel a bit of some hot oil to go right over the chicken breast. And it will also aid in coloring your sesame seeds quite a little more gentler than leaving it at the base of your pot. Right, after a few minutes of cooking, we're going to proceed to just lift that very gently and turn it over. This of course always aids in getting that beautiful color off your sesame seeds. And remember, by leaving that in there for too long, it will actually over color, and you may actually not be able to correct that once it happens. So just proceed to wiggle your pan around. And of course it will take you a few minutes to do so. I will also recommend, if you're doing this for bigger pieces or for bigger quantities, you may actually want to start this a little earlier, because clearly you're going to have a very long afternoon. Right, so proceed to keep rocking your pan back and forth, left and right, of course doing so in a very constant and slow technique. Right, and now right up until you can be able to get the sesame aroma coming through, and of course you will start to also get a nice beautiful crunch over your chicken breast. We're going to proceed to move this into the oven. Now we're going to preheat that to about 200 degrees, allowing that just a few minutes to begin to heat up. But while we do so, we are going to also throw in our chicken in there. So I'm just going to grab a baking sheet or baking tray, and very simply onto that you can proceed to dress it very briefly with some aluminium foil. Very handy tool to have in the kitchen. So all you're going to do is you can actually slice that in half. Remember, less is more. You can reserve that small piece. Right, you can now lay that right over your baking tray. I very much like to drizzle a little bit of oil on the sheet and rub it around. Remember, what this does is it actually cushions the heat from the base, and it will also allow for a nice beautiful lift once the chicken is fully cooked. Simple as that. Now all you need to do is proceed to lift your chicken from the oil. Of course, holding it very, very gently at this stage. And you can, of course, by holding that along the sides of your pan or right above it, you can be able to allow for any excess oil to drip out of drip off the chicken, and proceed to move that onto a baking tray. And this can now go into your oven for anywhere between 10 to 15 minutes or right up until the chicken is cooked through. And it's as simple as that, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you once again for tuning in this far. We are going to take a very short break, and when we do come back, I will take you through the last and final process of finishing off this very, very different kind of a salad. I will also give you some serving suggestions, and of course we'll also be able to recap on the chicken, and we can proceed to plating, and I can give you some more suggestions from there. But for now, do take this chance to freshen up, and we'll catch you in a short while. Welcome back, viewers. If you've just missed out on this and many more, remember you could always be able to recap on that through our YouTube channel, which is BrandPlus TV Kenya. And of course, if you have any comments, queries or suggestions, we're always more than happy to hear from you. You can be able to channel that through a different medium, which is Facebook, and the handle is BrandPlus TV Kenya as well. Now, before we proceed, I'll begin by taking out the chicken from the oven. This has now fully cooked. That took about 8 to 10 minutes. Just going to place that on the counter. Right, as we allow that to cool off and then we proceed to slice, we are also going to finish off the last bit of the accompaniment, which is the salad. And now for this, I will begin firstly by slicing about 2 sizable wedges, which I'm going to be using to plate. So I'm going to place those right over the plate like so. And of course, for the last piece, I'm going to be squeezing that into my salad. So while holding a sieve right over your bowl, proceed to squeeze out the juice of the last wedge of lemon. Once that's done, we're also going to be incorporating our lettuce. So I'm going to slice the base off completely. Remember, this will particularly expose any bits of soil that is still trapped in between my leaves. And all I'm going to do at this stage is begin by just tearing them from the stem. And I'll begin very simply by creating somewhat like a bed for the salad, which I'm going to place right over the front. And now this is a very, very simple technique of plating. Of course, you are not limited to just this. You can also incorporate your own techniques and styles. And now next up, I will proceed to shred up my lettuce. And I'll add that to the carrots. By using a spoon or even a pair of tongs, proceed to toss everything in the bowl together. Of course, right up until all of your lettuce has been dressed in the dressing and your mixture is evenly mixed through. And once that's done, using a pair of tongs, this should be very, very easy to plate. So all you're going to do is fluff up the mixture very, very briefly, and you can proceed to plate that right over the bed of lettuce that you created a little earlier. Of course, always plating a salad while giving it a bit of height is always a plus, and it always gives your plate a nice, beautiful look. Just to finish that off, proceed to scoop off the rest of the mixture right over the very top of your salad. And now that is done, we can also proceed to tear off the bases of some of the lettuce that's remaining, and you can just easily lay those right over the top. And as you can see, it does give it a really beautiful kick of color. And now next up, we're going to proceed to slice open our chicken. So I'm just going to grab that with a pair of tongs and move that onto the board. And very, very simply, while slicing diagonally, I'll begin to slice my chicken through, always making sure that it is fully cooked before proceeding to slice any further. It's now beautifully dried on the inside and very crispy on the out. Now once that's sliced through, very, very simple technique of moving that onto your plate. Begin by hold your piece of chicken, and of course slide your knife right underneath. And that should allow for you to move that onto your plate very, very simply. And you can just spread out the pieces as soon as they get to your plate, making sure to, of course, expose the inside of the chicken, and proceed to discard any particular remainders from your counter. Now, as you can see, the chicken's now beautifully colored through. The salad's complete, but of course, I'll always give you a nice different suggestion that you can also go with. For those of you who are not fans of salad, you can also alternatively go with some potato wedges, simply fried, and that will, of course, give you quite a beautiful portion for dinner. I do hope you've had fun today as much as I did, and I do hope you've managed to pick up something new from the show that you can also incorporate in your very own home kitchen. But from here, we are right now at the last and final part of the show, where I am going to give you some very, very simple pointers for this dish. Alternative to using chicken breast, you can also substitute that by coating up some chicken thighs. Or you can also use some chicken wings for the same simple technique. They will actually look a little more succulent, and it also can also pair as a starter. You can also alternatively make a bit of a sauce that can go right over your chicken, or you can alternatively just serve it just like that with a salad, and maybe with a bit of some ketchup, or of course some mayonnaise, or even some barbecue sauce for that matter. But for this, we've come to the very end of the show. I will bid you farewell and thank you once again for tuning in to BrandPlus TV today. My name is Chef Andy. I have been your host. And until the next episode, where we continue to freshen up your taste buds and your palates with some beautiful inspired ingredients and recipes, do have a lovely evening. God bless and bye-bye.